I call the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. It is Wednesday, October 16th, 3:30 p.m.
Alderman Vollmer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Present.
Vice Chair Browning. Present. Chair Schweitzer.
Present.
Alderman Vollmer. Alderwoman Keys. We have 3 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Quorum being present, we will move on to the approval of the minutes. We have to approve the minutes of Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. I would accept a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, I believe we have
We don't have.
the minutes from September 18th, 2024 here. So,
I'll get a copy of them.
okay, let's, do you mind removing your second?
I'll remove my second.
Okay, we have withdrawn the second and the motion will return to approval of the minutes later in the agenda. Moving on to board bills for review. I don't see Alderman Oldenburg, so we'll move to.
He's online.
Oh, wonderful. Alderman Oldenburg, you're recognized on board bill number 83.
Can you go to Alderman Aldridge and can I go second just so I can pull over in a safe manner and not be driving?
Too.
I have no words, Alderman, but yes, we can wait. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, board bill number 91, introduced by Alderman Regina Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and members of the committee. So board bills, I know the tight timeline because we got water department. So board bill 91 will be.
Ooh, I think you got to turn.
Mic on.
Can you guys hear me now? Oh, yeah. So thank you, Madam Clerk and members of the committee. Board Bill 91 will be changing the name right at Market Street and 11 to, actually, before we do that one, can we go to 109 first?
Sure, you are recognized on board bill 109.
Thank you, Madam Clerk and members of the committee. So Board Bill 109 would be an honorary street name right outside of Soldier Memorial at Tuskegee Airmen Way. And there's some folks that are here to talk about it. I know this went through the committee, so it's a reiteration of it, but I want to give respect to the organization and make sure that their voices are heard. So I will yield my time to the speakers who would like to speak on it.
Wonderful. If anyone who'd like to speak on this could approach the microphone. Hello, ma'am. Are you the only one here to speak on this today?
Yes, I'm representing a whole group.
You could. Wonderful. If you could raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Wonderful. You may proceed. Please
Hello.
say your name and where you're from, and thank you for being here.
Hello, my name is Yolanda Wood. I am the president of the Hugh J. White Tuskegee Airmen chapter. I've had both national and regional and local roles. Today I'm coming to you to ask you to vote in favor of renaming the honorary street. You may not be aware that St. Louis has produced over 50 Tuskegee Airmen. And when I talk about Tuskegee Airmen, I am not talking about just the pilots. For a brief history lesson, there were almost 1,000 trained, 450 pilots went overseas. But if I gave the aldermen a respectful test and asked, were there any white people in the Tuskegee Airmen, you would all go like this. If I asked if there were any women that were Tuskegee Airmen, you would all nod your head yes. If I asked if there were any internationals, you would all nod your head yes. And if I said, were there any people from St. Louis, you would say blank yes. So we have Wendell Pruitt, Hugh J. White, Lewis Lynch, George Carper, just off the top. We had pilots and maintainers and females. I have the yearbook, we were going through it. We found 2 names of women who have probably been lost. And I think this would be an opportunity not only to memorialize the Tuskegee Airmen and provide St. Louis another opportunity to be proud in St. Louis, but it would also provide a history lesson and a lasting legacy for our youth who are looking for heroes and These are heroes who saw a challenge and said, in my old story, watch me. Can you do this? Their response was, watch me. Can you fly in airplanes? Watch me. Can you defend the bombers? Watch me. And the end of the story is on one of their missions deep into Germany, a bomber was losing their escort officer, and they said, we realize that 1 out of 3 and 1 out of 4 bombers did not make it home on every mission. And the Tuskegee Airmen were escorting, and they were due to leave. And the bomber looked out the pilot and said, Red Tail 1, this is Bomber 1. Red Tail 1, this is Bomber 1. Can you protect us all the way in and all the way out? And the Tuskegee Airmen said, watch me. I'd like to see the aldermen say, watch me make the street named after you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions?
I will ask our group if we have any questions for our speaker. No questions? Great. Thank you for speaking. Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Clerk and members of the committee. Again, this is, when you think of the Tuskegee Airmen, it's just so much history, especially in the St. Louis area. And this is a small token of gratitude, and hopefully can be something that continue to grow as we would be placing this honorary street name. And with that, I would just open up to any questions from my colleagues.
Thank you. Before we move to questions, do we have anyone else signed up to speak on the bill, Madam Clerk?
We have none.
Okay, and no one online?
No.
Okay, wonderful. All right, we'll move through the committee for questions. Alderman Ballmer. Alderman Velasquez.
No questions for the sponsor. I do want to thank him for bringing this bill to committee, and I do want to thank you, ma'am, for bringing this, for coming here and testifying, but also just making sure that we honor our ancestors and we honor the history and we honor those heroes. So thank you.
Lovely. Vice Chair Browning.
No questions. Just wanted to highlight that one of the Tuskegee Airmen, Wendell Pruitt, is the Pruitt and Pruitt-Igoe, which is just another fascinating bit of history. Obviously, we have a lot of storied people that contributed to our country and to our region, and I think this is just wonderful that we can name the street right by Soldiers Memorial in their honor, so that hopefully it sparks conversation and curiosity and helps educate generation after generation of people. So thank you to the sponsor for bringing this forward, and thank you to everybody who helped make this happen.
Thank you. Anything to say to close?
Outside of, I think my colleagues, like Alderman Browning said, I think this could be a great moment in history, especially for of people of color, of women, and all folks to understand that there is history within our city. Hopefully, they can see within themselves. And also, I wanted to go on record and let our speaker know that the alderwoman from the 10th Ward, she texted me. She said, "Thank you for your words. She really loved the Watch Me." I believe that she will plan to be added as a co-sponsor at a time when she's here. And with that, I would just ask for a motion for do pass recommendation.
I move that we pass this in bank.
Second.
It's been moved by the alderman from the 6th that we in-bank this Board Bill 109. It's been seconded by the alderman from the 9th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Ballmer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Velasquez.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Chair Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye. Aye.
We have 5 aye votes.
Thank you. By your vote, you've sustained the motion of the alderwoman from the 6th, and what that means for the people who are listening here today is that all of us have added our names as co-sponsors to this bill to further strengthen the support from the Board of Aldermen for this bill and what you all are trying to do here today. And with that, I will accept a motion for a do pass recommendation of Board Bill number.
I would move that we pass Board Bill 109 out of committee with a do pass recommendation.
Previous roll.
It's been moved by the alderman from the 9th, seconded by the alderman from the 5th. There's been a call for previous roll. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing none, we have passed Board Bill 109 with a do pass recommendation. Congratulations. Alderman Aldridge, you have Board Bill number 91 and 92. Is there any order?
I'm gonna take up 91. It looks like they need to have a quick amendment to 90 that's being worked on. So I'll take up 91 right now.
Sure. Okay, so you are recognized on Board Bill 91.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Board Bill 91 is another honorary street naming bill that would name the street Freedom Way that shall be installed at the intersection of Market and 11th Street to the intersection of Chestnut and 11. And again, I have some speakers here that can be able to speak on the importance of this, so I will step aside and allow them to be able to come up.
Okay. Anyone who's speaking on this could approach. Thank you. You have to use the microphone, unfortunately, because of the Zoom. Folks who are watching online can't hear without the microphone, so I'll just have you raise your right hand if you don't mind. Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I surely do.
Wonderful. If you could introduce yourself and please share your testimony today.
My name is David C. Mason. I'm a circuit judge here in the City of St. Louis, 22nd Circuit. I'm the senior judge of our circuit. And incidentally, are you related to Gordon Schweitzer?
There are three. Yes, there are three Gordon Schweitzers I'm related to, so it depends. Four of them: grandpa, dad,
Just
brother,
that I knew
nephew.
him, and I was just thinking. But anyway, that aside, if there was anything that was clear with the last board bill that you saw and the two that I'm here to speak on, is that St. Louis is at an interesting crossroads right now. Like a lot of cities like St. Louis, we spent so many years of our growth and development without really paying attention to the impact of what was long considered the minority population of a city. Now, these are historical facts that within the Black community are very well known, talked about, expressed in many occasions, as you've just heard. But when somebody like Alderman Aldrich, and I just want to thank you because you're young, but you know your history, and you're bringing it to your colleagues on the board, we've reached a point in our city now that we're starting to really pay attention to the untold history and to embrace it and take pride in it. You probably noticed that if some of you were involved or at the unveiling of the Freedom Slough Memorial, 500 and some odd people just showed up from all across the city and in complete cross-section to celebrate that because it was our city's history. Well, this bill continues that. The plaza where the memorial is called Freedom Plaza. In fact, the name of the memorial is Freedom's Home. The artist Preston Jackson took the position that the courts are always the home of freedom because that's where we always go to essentially fight for our freedom. Either, staying out of jail or getting out of it or protecting our property or otherwise asserting our individual rights, particularly under the umbrella of our freedoms. So in the context of that, the Board of Directors of the Freedom Slough Memorial Foundation asked the alderman to bring to your attention our request that that particular street is right between the memorial and the Sarah sculpture, if you will, right there on 11th Street, to ask that street be honorarily called a Freedom Way. And it goes along with the Freedom Walk, where all the people who've made donations have indicated their thoughts and their wishes and their quotations having to do with the concept of freedom in St. Louis and the underlying impact of the freedom suits as they were in St. Louis. So that is essentially kind of, I guess you can say, what we're up to, if you will, in asking that that particular section of the street be named a Freedom Way. And I'll stop there because I think my alderman is going to ask me to speak on some other issues as well. So I'll just stop there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is for a different bill, correct? The next one. Okay. Thank you. Wonderful. Alderman, are there any other speakers?
Is there anybody to speak on the Freedom?
Anybody else to speak on this? Okay.
I have no one signed up.
Any questions for our speaker? Okay, thank you so much, sir, for sharing your testimony. That was very helpful. Alderman Aldridge, anything else before I open up to questions to you?
No, I'm just honored that Judge Mason, who is a legend in the city of St. Louis, to be very clear, it's good to give folks their flowers while they still here. Allowed me to be able to partner with you on this. And I remember when the statue was first put together. So I'm glad this is a continuation of just continuing to make sure that we uplift the history we have in the city. And it's truly an honor to have been able to work on this with you and also the next legislation. So no questions for myself.
Thank you. Any questions for the sponsor from the committee?
No questions.
Hearing none, seeing none. Alderman Aldridge, you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I would just ask for a do pass recommendation on Board Bill 91.
I would accept a motion for a due pass recommendation of Board Bill 91.
So moved.
Can I make a motion that we move this in bank as well?
We can do both of those things.
I have to remove my motion.
We can remove the
I'll
motion.
remove my motion.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Alderman.
I move that we make this in bank.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
Okay. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th. That we bank. There's been a call from previous roll from the Alderman from the 5th. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing none, we have passed, or we have made Board Bill number 109 in bank. Again, that means everyone on the committee is sponsoring the bill.
91.
91, I apologize, 91. And we will now move to take a motion for a due pass recommendation
So moved.
Second,
for Board Bill 91. Wonderful. We have a
previous roll.
motion from the Alderman from the 5th, a second from the Alderman from the 6th, and a call for previous roll from the Alderman from the 6th. Any objection to previous roll?
No objection.
No objection to previous roll. We have passed Board Bill number 91 with a due pass recommendation. Thank you so much. Alderman, you are now recognized on Board Bill number 92.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and for the folks in the public. Public infrastructure runs a very tight ship and efficient ship, so that's why you see things happening so quickly. I kind of miss the committee. However, Board Bill 92 is renaming the Civil Courts Building at 10 North Market Street to Cahill, or to Clyde S. Cahill Jr. And I have 3 amendments before I have speakers come up to speak on it because there was an error in the bill. So I'll be ready to take those amendments.
You are recognized on amendment number 1 to Board Bill number 92.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. These will all be the same amendments, just on different pages. This would strike out on page, amendment number 1 would strike out 1010 Market. This will be in the summary, and insert 10 North Tucker Street, which is the actual location of the Civil Courts Building.
Okay, any questions? Hearing no questions, I will accept a motion to adopt amendment number 1 to Board Bill number 92.
I move to adopt amendment number 1 to Board Bill 92.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th. Any call for previous roll?
Previous roll.
The Alderman from the 6th called previous roll. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, we have Alderman Keys. Any objection? You're unmuted, Alderwoman. Thank you. Okay.
Hang on.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we have adopted amendment number 1 to Board Bill number 92. Alderman, you're recognized on amendment number 2 to Board Bill number 92. Do you mind muting Alderman Keys while I think she's not meaning to talk to us? She's
Okay,
not.
finally, I was able to get there.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Do you have any comments on amendment number 1 to Board Bill number 92? No. Okay. Alderman Aldridge, you're recognized on amendment number 2 to Board Bill 92.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I move to adopt amendment 2 to Board Bill 92 committee.
We have to move on our end.
I would like to discuss amendment number 2, which would again be taking out 1010 Market and putting in the correct street on page 1, line 1 at 10 North Tucker Boulevard.
Thank you. Any questions on amendment number 2?
I move to adopt amendment number 2 to Board Bill 92.
As amended.
As amended.
It's been moved that we adopt amendment number 2 to Board Bill number 92 by the Alderman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th.
Previous roll.
Alderman from the 9th is called for previous roll. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing none, we have adopted amendment number 2 to Board Bill number 92 as amended. Alderman, you recognize an amendment number 3 to Board Bill number 92 as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Amendment number 3 to Board Bill 92 as amended, beginning on page 4, line 5, strikes out 1010 Market and inserts the following words of 10 North Boulevard.
North Tucker Boulevard. Great. Any questions on amendment number 3? Alderman Ballmer, you're recognized.
No, I just think we might be putting in the record books. I've never seen amendments on a honorary street board before, so I'll mention it to the clerk to make sure you get your proper recognition.
Well, Alderman, we just
Congratulations.
yes, and we did the honorary street naming last bill, so I know you got to catch up.
No worries.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Okay. Great. So
I move that we adopt amendment
you.
number 3 to Board Bill 92 as amended.
Second.
Previous roll.
it's been moved that we adopt amendment number 3 to Board Bill 92 as amended by the Alderman from the 9th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th. There's been a call from previous roll by the Alderman from the 6th. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing none, we have adopted amendment number 3 to Board Bill number 92 as amended. Alderman, you're recognized on Board Bill number 92 as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. At this moment, I would space and time for the speakers who are here to speak on the actual bill.
Wonderful. If anyone who is planning on speaking this could please approach. Welcome back, sir. You've been sworn in, so we'll just assume you're still good. Go ahead.
And I'm here now in my capacity of, I guess you can say, an ad hoc community of members of a committee who have come together to ask this board to recognize a unsung giant, an unsung hero amongst judiciary of our city, our state, and our nation, the Honorable Clyde S. Cahill. Clyde Cahill began working for us even before I was born. When I say working for us, you can't help but say he was working for everyone in St. Louis, even though he was seeking to advance the rights of the disenfranchised Black people in the city of St. Louis. However, he worked his way in the law. He wasn't a confrontational person, but he worked hard at it. When he became a circuit judge, he became a focal point for fixing our instructions so that instructions to the jury at the end of the trial, so that the average citizen could understand them. And even though the Court of Appeals didn't like what he was doing, he persisted, and eventually his voice won. When he became a federal judge, he recognized a huge problem in the United States of America. And you probably have either heard about it, perhaps you might have read about it. I'm sorry, Alderman Browning, because you were a little young, but I know you are at least aware that there was a time in this country that under the federal law, if somebody had a gram of powder to cocaine, you probably weren't even charged, or if you were, it was a simple misdemeanor. The same amount of cocaine but turned into crack, you're looking at 10 years imprisonment, maybe even worse. And because powder cocaine was essentially the cocaine of choice in the white community, and crack cocaine was the cocaine of choice in the Black community, but the racial disparity that occurred in sentencing was patently obvious. Thousands of Black men across this country, and when you add in the 3 strikes law that was occurring in California and other states, thousands upon thousands found themselves facing long terms of imprisonment for the same amount of cocaine that others were getting probation or very short term of imprisonment. Judge Cahill saw the disparity, and he wrote a 44-page opinion in United States against Clary, declaring the U.S. statutes, sentencing statutes, unconstitutional because of the racially disparate impact. He went out on a limb doing that. And in fact, the Court of Appeals couldn't go along with him, even though I think in their hearts they wanted. He sparked a movement that eventually led to Congress changing that law and taking this horrendous set of chains off of the thousands of Black men who would have subsequently been imprisoned under the old disparate system. He has never really been honored by this city like he should be. He's one of the giants of our profession, not only judicial, but the legal profession altogether. We are coming, and I'm going to turn this over to his son, because his son speaks so eloquently. But the sum is substance here. I'm coming to you as a member of our circuit court, and our circuit court is I can say, unofficially pleased with this in asking this Board of Aldermen to change that name to a true giant who may have been a little short in stature. He's probably about your height, maybe a little shorter. When I was standing next to him, I looked pretty big because I'm 6'5" when I was walking. But to take this man, while small in stature, is one of the super giants of the legal profession here in the state of Missouri. With that, I'd like for you to give some time, if you don't mind, to Randall Cahill, his son, Attorney Randall Cahill. If you don't mind me passing.
Of course. Please approach the dais, sir, and we'll get you sworn in.
Don't know if I've got it in there right.
It's all right. You may have to hold it or...
Hi, Pops.
There you go.
It's a
Don't mind raising your right hand, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Wonderful. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Attorney Randall Cahill and the son of Judge Clyde S. Cahill. And I don't mean to toot our own horn, but the pride of every son is his father. Dad was born here in St. Louis on April the 9th, 1923. He grew up during the Depression. He lost his mother at 9 years old. He attended Louverture School, where he graduated, and on to Vashon, where he was valedictorian of his class in 1941. Dad received a scholarship from Harvard, couldn't afford the $600 that he needed to go, and ended up joining the U.S. Army. He was a part of the United States Army Air Corps and flew. I mean, just a pleasant meeting to meet the other members from the Tuskegee Airmen, because Dad was also a flyer during that time. Dad graduated, came back to St. Louis under the GI Bill and graduated in 1951 from St. Louis University, from the law school. From there, he joined the Circuit Attorney's Office and worked with Senator Thomas Eagleton, where he cut his teeth doing murder cases and was also a champion of Senator Eagleton. He attended the March on Washington with Cardinal Ritter, who has also got a school named after him right now. He came back to St. Louis in 1965 to head up or be the general manager of the HDC Corporation. I don't know if many of you know of it, but it was the anti-poverty program at that time. From there, Dad went on to be the executive chair of the Slave Society of Missouri. He was appointed in 1975 and sworn in at the old courthouse downtown right here in 1975, my senior year in high school. Ultimately, Dad was appointed by Thomas Eagleton to the Federal District Court in 1980 and confirmed by the Senate and appointed by Jimmy Carter, where he served for the next 20 years. He has been a champion of freedom, a stand-up, just a wonderful, always looked at the glass as being half full. Dad has been awarded by every organization. He grew up in St. Louis. His family has been here since before the change of the century. And I don't think that there could be a bigger honor for our family or for the city of St. Louis to name the Civil Courts building after my father. He's been awarded the Nelson Mandela Award by the BALSA, which is the Black American Law Students Association, the Hasty Award by the National Bar Association, Civil Liberties Award by the ACLU, honorary doctorate from St. Louis University, the Fleur-de-Lis, Order of the Fleur-de-Lis by St. Louis University. He's in the Bamsel Hall of Fame, and he was also the American Trial Lawyer. So I think by awarding Dad, we award all these other organizations too that hail him as one of their sons. And we would encourage the board to pass this bill and go forward and give St. Louis and my father some of the respect and honor that he deserves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the speaker?
There's one other speaker that just
No questions, but
oh, go ahead.
I believe
Go ahead.
your brother Kevin and I were classmates who graduated CBC together.
Okay, at CBC together. I'm a St. Louis U High grad.
Yeah, well, that's why I really don't like him.
We'll hold that.
No, and Senator Eagleton
Might have sunk the
actually-
bill just right then.
So, no, well aware of your father's accomplishments all my life. We're very proud to help out with this, and Nice meeting you, sir.
Well, thank you so very, very much. Any other questions?
Any questions from the committee? Wonderful. You said there's one more speaker? Okay.
Yes, there's one more speaker. I have Malik Sims, who is a constituent of the city of St. Louis, and I think he'd also like to say a few words.
Wonderful. Come on up. You mind raising your right hand?
Yes.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
So my name is Donnell Malik Sims. These gentlemen pretty much summed it up. The Honorable Gladys Cahill. Again, there's quite a bit of history in the room today, right? I'm from the Pruitt-Igoe Housing Project, which Alderman Browning pointed out that the Tuskegee Airmen, et cetera. Judge Cahill, you know, I'm just a community member, right? A constituent of the city of St. Louis. I vehemently remember the crack war, the war on drugs. Being from the Pruitt-Igoe housing projects, eventually the Doris Weary Peabody housing projects, I know a lot of people who were directly impacted, black and brown individuals. The disparities were harsh and they were tearing families apart. But as the judge, Your Honor, stated, the Honorable Cahill, he was a champion for everybody's rights way before crack hit the scene. This is just the catalyst of his career. So I appreciate the Honorable Rashim, the Alderman, for sponsoring the bill, and I plead with you to please give him his rightful place in history in the great city of St. Louis.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for speaking today. Any questions for the speaker? Okay, any other public comment? Anyone signed up, Madam Clerk?
We don't have any more comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I do have a couple comments.
What's that?
I do have a couple comments.
Okay. We'll go through the members of the committee now for comments on the bill. We'll begin with Alderman.
No questions, comments. As I said, a privilege and an honor to do anything to memorialize Mr. Judge Cahill. Thank you very much.
Okay, Alderman Velasquez.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to Mr.
The trash.
Oh, I apologize, Alderman Keys. I forgot you were here because you were on Zoom. I'm sorry, Alderman Velasquez. Alderwoman Keys, I apologize for missing you in the order here. You're recognized.
No worries. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
So noted.
All righty. Thank you. And I'm very happy that this is for Judge Cahill.
Madam Chair, if we could we make a motion to embank?
Second.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 5th that we embank Board Bill number 92, seconded by the Alderman from the 6th. Any call for previous roll?
Previous roll.
Any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, we have made Board Bill number 92 bank. Alderman Velasquez, please continue.
Thank you. I just want to say one thank you to my constituent, Mr. Lendell, for speaking, and also thank you to Mr. Cahill. I just want to say I think, and thank you to the sponsor for bringing this bill to honor Judge Cahill to us. I think it's good for us to remember that the war on drugs is often a war on people. And I think as legislators and as leaders, you know, sometimes we think we do good and there are unintended consequences or maybe intended consequences. And I think that obviously the war on drugs in retrospect hurt a lot of people for generations. And we see that now, and I'm not sure that people saw that when they were passing that kind of legislation and the stark disparities that we see today. And I think it's important to point that out. And I am grateful that Judge Cahill was bold enough to write a decision such as this. And I don't know if he was popular for doing it at that time, but I'm glad he did. And I'm grateful he did. And it's something that should be memorialized. And, you know, I think all of us leaders should take a cue from that when we see things that are unjust. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Velasquez. Thank you, Alderman Velasquez. Vice Chair Browning.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly agree. Happy to have my name as a co-sponsor. Agree with my colleagues' comments. Judge Cahill seems like somebody that should be memorialized, and I do believe the Civil Courts Building would be a great place to do that. I do have one concern about this bill, and it has nothing to do with the subject of it. It's more about the mechanism. Ordinance number 68937 has to do with honorary street namings and does not allow, per the text, to rename buildings with it. I did try to find an ordinance that would allow naming of buildings, could not find it, but I want to make sure we're using the correct mechanism because I do want this to happen. I just want to make sure that we are doing it legally in the right steps so that we can make sure it happens.
Yes, so there, like you say, there's not an ordinance for buildings, so that's why we resorted to the one for the street. And I've talked with Lou, our legal counsel, and that it was okay to move forward this way. But I will also, before it gets final pass, to make sure that we're doing it right, make sure we tap in with our city councilor to see how do we properly put it, since there's not an ordinance for building naming.
Okay, yeah, if we need to make an ordinance about naming buildings, then let's do that, right? Because whatever we need to do to make this happen. But I see a comment over
Where
here.
we don't take comments from the audience during meetings. We can, if we'd like to ask this gentleman a question, we can have him reapproach. Judge Mays, if you're able to reapproach, we can would you like to ask him a question, Alderman?
Yeah, if I could inquire.
Wonderful. Sir, do you mind reapproaching the dais? Thank you.
I just wanted to say very quickly, I did actually bring this to the attention of the city councilor's office because I was concerned with how did the Carnahan building get its name, and he actually couldn't find anything. So we kind of, in discussing it, said, well, since the city owns the Civil Courts Building, it's your building, it would only make sense that the authority for naming it would lie with you. And finding a specific precedent for that, I could not. But I think that given the general nature of our city's charter, I think your authority is probably relatively clear in that regard.
It's always nice to have a lawyer in the room. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I assume he's a lawyer as well.
We have no shortage of lawyers in the room, which is great.
Judges and lawyers. Thank you.
Is there another question?
No
sir,
other questions. Again, happy and glad to see this bill. And I work with the sponsor and know him to be a man of his word. So I'm happy to proceed with it today. And just want to make sure that we are taking the right thing. I think that's upon us as a body to make sure we get it right legally too. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you. And I want to just make a comment that I appreciate everyone here coming and to speak on this. It's just so important to talk about the history of our city and the people who not only influenced our city, but influenced the entire country and the world. So thank you for coming and doing that today. It's a real honor to hear from you. So with that, anything to say to close?
Thank you, Madam Chair, because I know this was I brought this to you quickly this week, and you made space for understanding that there was other items on the agenda. So I want to thank your leadership for allowing these important items to be discussed and passed out today. And again, to the judge and to the family, it's just been an honor to be a part of the vessel to make sure that the history stay alive on this legislation and other legislations that was passed today. And with that, I would ask for a due pass recommendation.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion for a due pass recommendation to Board Bill 92 as amended. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderman from the 6th. Any call for previous roll?
Previous roll.
The Alderman from the 9th has called for previous roll. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, we have passed Board Bill 92 as amended. Thank you so much. Thank you. Alderman Oldenburg did let me know he had to step away, so I am going to handle his very complicated speed hump bill for him this morning or afternoon.
So moved.
Thank you. Board Bill number 83, it's not a speed hump, I apologize. It is a stop sign, three-way stop sign at the intersection of Macklin Avenue and Mylands Avenue, regulating all traveling northbound and southbound on Macklin and eastbound on Mylands at the intersection of Macklin Avenue and Mylands Avenue. I will say, as someone who is in that area frequently, that is a confusing intersection and some visibility issues. So I understand why the alderman brought this forward. I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about the stop sign bill, but if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to take them.
No questions.
No questions.
Other than,
I move that,
Yeah, I'd entertain, well, thank you. I'm
I move that
sharing
we
and
pass out Board Bill 83 with a due pass recommendation.
second,
Previous roll.
it's been moved by the alderman from the 5th, seconded by the alderman from the 6th. The alderman from the 9th has called for previous roll. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, we have passed Board Bill number 83 with a due pass recommendation.
I'm going to not be here for the rest of my bills, so they go that fast.
You know, I would appreciate if you were here. I will talk to Alderman Oldenburg at a later time, not during this meeting. Thank you. Wonderful. So moving on, we have passed through all of the items on our board bills for review. Moving on to resolutions for review, we have none. Now moving to committee discussions. Item number 1, we have a report from the Water Division today. As many of you may have seen in the news recently, there has been a decision passed down from the Environmental Protection Agency, further regulations of water service lines, including the replacement of lead service lines. So our wonderful Water Division is here today to come speak with that. If you gentlemen would be able to approach, and Madam Clerk, if you would have that presentation pulled up, please. Thank you so much for being here, gentlemen. Madam Clerk will have the presentation in just a moment. And while she's pulling that up, if you don't mind, I would just like to take a moment of personal privilege here to thank Mr. Scooby, Director Scooby, for all of the work and time working for the Water Division. I know you announced earlier that you would be retiring soon, and I just want to thank you personally for the amount of years and time that you've put in to the city, to the Water Division. It has been an absolute labor of love. I can always tell how much you care about this, how quickly you respond to us. And I just wanted to say thank you first and foremost before we started presenting today. Just your service has been exemplary. So thank you so much.
Thank you for those kind words. I appreciate them. I enjoy working with the board, the public, and everybody else in the city. And excuse me, but
Excuse me, could you get closer to the mic so we can hear you?
oh yeah,
I'm returning. I'm just going to try out some of the water and the MSD products. I'll be right back.
all right. No, I enjoyed working for the city, the Board of Aldermen, and everybody else, the citizens, and it's a good profession to be in. But it's time for me to move on. Neeraj Patel will be replacing me starting November 1st. Neeraj is very talented, knowledgeable, and will do an outstanding job, I'm sure. So.
Well, that's a very high recommendation. So we're looking forward to that. Well, thank you for being here, both of you, and for giving this presentation today. I will let you take the lead on how you want to break up the time or who wants to go first, but we have the presentation up. So start as you're ready. And you need to be a little bit closer to the mic, I think, Director.
Yes, I am, and I'm going to turn it over to Neeraj since he will be taking over and he will be talking to you in the future past November 1st on this. This is going to be a multi-year task, not horrendous, but a Herculean task to accomplish what we're being directed to do by US EPA.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kurt. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Neeraj Patel. As Kurt mentioned, I'm going to be moving in to replace him as Director of Public Utilities. Lead service lines in St. Louis. Yeah, we wanted to provide a report for you all. There was a rule that came down from the EPA. It's called the Lead and Copper Rule Improvements. It is a final rule, and there are a lot of aspects to talk about as far as what that rule means for the Water Division and for the citizens of St. Louis. Next slide, please. So the presentation that we're going to give you today, we're going to go over a few topics. First of all, a history of lead service lines. And then we'll move into the health impacts and preventative measures. And then we'll move into water quality in St. Louis and lead levels. From there, we'll move to the regulatory changes, and then what does this mean for St. Louis water? Next slide, please. So lead has been used in plumbing for many centuries. It's a material that has many properties that were beneficial, but as history has shown, there are many health effects associated with it. It's been used in St. Louis extensively. There was a time period at which we stopped using it, before many cities, but after others as well. As more information became available on the health effects, the dangers, there was a move to try to stop using lead as material in the service lines. The Flint water crisis elevated this, pandemic and highlighted the dangers of lead as a material for water service lines. Next slide. So one thing that's unique about St. Louis is that the service lines are entirely owned by the customers. In many cities across the country and many utilities across the country, there's a split ownership. Some utilities own all of the service lines, but in St. Louis, they are owned by the customers. We're working on our initial inventory. We have published it. We have submitted it to the state to meet regulatory compliance. October 16th, 2024 is the compliance date for publishing that inventory online to the public due to the size of our system, and also submitting that to the state, which is our regulatory agency. That inventory is being developed using historical records. These are tap cards. These are inspections that were done. A lot of these records are over 100 years old. Many changes have been made. And because we don't own these service lines, we don't have a lot of the current information on the makeup of these pipes. So can you go back, please, actually? As a result of the compliance date, we are going to be sending notification letters to customers that are served by a lead service line in our inventory, or a line that's unknown in our inventory. A lot of those unknown lines are actually being worked on today, every day, to be updated in that inventory. We have a number of paper records that have not yet been processed. We anticipate that that will be done in the coming months. It may take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to finalize and complete the processing of those historical records. That's very time consuming. These are old records. They're in boxes. They have to be scanned, evaluated, and then the records updated. So the letters that we are going to be mailing out to those customers that we have as served by a lead service line or an unknown service line are going to be coming out in early November, as I said. They're going to have additional information on what that means, funding opportunities that are available, health effects of lead, a lot of the stuff that we'll go over today, but directly to the consumers and customers that are drinking the water. We do have a self-reporting tool. This helps us out tremendously. It's an online tool. You can go to the website, stlwater.com. You'll find that tool linked on the homepage. There's also a URL listed up there, but probably easier just to go to our website. You can also give us a call. We can help you out and direct you to how to report your service line material. Next slide. So this is a chart showing the inventory as it stands currently. I say currently, but this is probably old data. As I said, records are being updated as we speak. It does show a large number of unknowns. That is, 57,000 plus. As I mentioned, our goal is to reduce that number of unknowns. We will be required to send letters annually to the customers served by either an unknown service line or a service line that is categorized lead. We do currently have a little over 9,000 service lines that are categorized as lead. Again, this is from our historical records, so it may or may not be accurate. The only way to know for sure is to set eyes on it or dig it up. And then we do have a subset that is non-lead. Next slide. And next slide, please. So the health effects of lead. Exposure to lead in drinking water can cause serious health effects in all age groups. Infants, children are at higher risk. Their bodies and brains are still developing, but you can see here that it can decrease IQ, it result in learning disabilities, learning issues, and then there's also other effects for the entire population as well. Heart disease, high blood pressure, kidney, nervous system problems, the list goes on and on. So this is very dangerous stuff if consumed in quantity, right? Lead in drinking water is not typically the cause of lead poisoning. That is due to the strong regulations that exist today, the strong regulations that came out in the 90s, actually. So for over 20 years, we have been actively using corrosion control treatment strategy that has reduced the chance that lead gets into the water from the pipes. Next slide, please. So the majority of the lead in the drinking water does come from the items owned by the customer in that service line. These are connectors, lead service lines, lead solder, fixtures that have high lead content in the home. One of the best ways to reduce exposure to lead in water is to run the faucet for 30 seconds, a minute, when it has sat stagnant for a while. This flushes out the water that has absorbed some lead overnight, long durations of non-use, and it can either be caught and captured for use for watering plants or just run down the drain. Use cold water for cooking and for preparing baby formula. The warmer the water, the more chance it can leach from the plumbing in your household, the lead solder, the fixtures. Don't use hot water, obviously, for cooking. Don't use hot water for making baby formula. And then boiling water will not reduce the amount of lead. So if the testing has shown that you have elevated levels for lead, using a pitcher filter that removes lead is the best way to mitigate that. It's important to find a pitcher filter that reduces a large portion of the lead, majority of the lead. You're free to contact the NSF or contact the Water Division customer service. We can direct you to the right product. Next slide. So as I mentioned previously, both water treatment plants, the Water Division, have for over 20 years, had excellent water quality, have received the Director's Award for Partnership for Safe Water, thanks to Kurt, and a lot of the treatment folks that do an excellent job every day to make sure that the water is safe. We test quality multiple times a day throughout the treatment process, and we've been recognized as a high-quality water supplier. We do have consumer confidence reports available online on our website. They show this excellent water quality, this history of having very safe and good tasting water. Next slide. I mentioned previously the corrosion control treatment strategy that we, and what that does for us. It applies a film on the interior of the pipe. It's a protective barrier, and it minimizes that absorption of lead into the water. The EPA's previous action level of 15 parts per billion was reduced with this new rule that was released October 7th to 10 parts per billion. In all of our testing, we have been well below that level. Those are 90th percentile levels, so 90% of the samples tested would fall below the level, and 10 parts per billion is going to be the new action level in 3 years when that rule becomes final. Next slide. So this all stems from the Safe Drinking Water Act. As a result of it, there was a lead ban nationally. And then, as I mentioned, in the 90s, there was the lead and copper rule that came out. In 2018, EPA looked to strengthen those rules, make improvements, and they came out with the lead and copper rule revisions. And then shortly after, actually the first day that President Biden was in office, they put a stop or a hold to that rule to further strengthen that rule. And that's what we're looking at today is the lead and copper rule improvements. Next slide, please. This is a very hard to read slide. It's meant to show you that this is the highly, concentrated version of some of the aspects of the lead and copper rule improvements. It's almost 900 pages as the pre-publication version. We're just starting to go through it and understand what all this will mean for us. There's a lot of changes and a lot to digest. So as we go through this, we are going to be working to educate the public, educate the city leaders to make sure that we are meeting or exceeding these goals. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for us, right? We have a mission at the Water Division. I will read it out loud to you all. To provide an uninterrupted supply of the highest quality drinking water to city residents, businesses, and other valued customers in a safe, economical manner. So the main goal of the LCRI rule is to replace 100% of service lines, which are lead or galvanized, requiring replacement by 2037. So we have 13 years. That's not a lot of time if you have a lot of lines. Replacements are going to cost approximately $13,000, and the rule does not put this burden on the water systems that are being asked to follow out this rule. So when it comes to lines that are lead that require replacement, currently that responsibility is on the owner financially. Comprehensive funding source has not been identified for this purpose, though there are substantial funding available through the federal government with the bipartisan infrastructure law grants. There's $15 billion total, but our trade organization, American Water Works Association, has estimated that the total cost is going to be closer to $90 billion. I've seen estimates that are higher. We have applied for and been set aside $5 million through the bipartisan infrastructure law. That was a cap that was instituted by the state, as their pot of funding is limited as well, and they have to spread that money around. I mentioned previously that we are going to be required to notify customers annually by mail if our records indicate that they have a service line that is containing lead or is unknown. We do have that interactive service line inventory that I mentioned that is live. Again, the link is on our website. You can go to that link, type in your address and see if we have an updated record for your home or residence. And again, I'd like to, ask that people use the self-reporting tool that we have there. It is one of the best ways for us to receive, current information versus those sometimes 100-year-old tap record cards. And it requires, less effort on our end when we're short-staffed and don't have the inspectors to go out and do this work. Can you go back one slide? Okay, next slide, please. So on the funding note, I mentioned that we have had some luck in getting federal funding for this. In fact, probably a little bit more than others. St. Louis is categorized as a disadvantaged community for lead. And so all of this funding that you see on there is 100% grant. There is no loan component to it. This is money coming our way that we do not have to pay back. But as I mentioned, the impact could be much larger than this, will be much larger than this, and this will not cover full bill. I think that wraps it up for the presentation. I know that was a lot.
Thank you so much for coming today. Madam Clerk, if you could leave that up just in case people want to look at specific slides. We'll start with questions from the committee. Alderman
No real questions. I understand the complexity of the project, and having grown up, I probably drinking a lot of lead-lined water. I'm still here, so I believe that what you're doing is necessary, but the time factor will allow for you to get it done. But thank you for your time.
Sure.
Alderman Velasquez.
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Browning.
Thank you. So you mentioned there's no source of funding identified as of yet for the replacement of these lines.
Not no source of funding, just not a sufficient source of funding, comprehensive source of funding.
Okay, and so is our intention to make sure that we don't pass the cost of this on to the owner of the property?
It hasn't been decided yet how we can move forward here. There's certainly not enough money in our rates to do this work. I mean, again, we don't have a full picture. We will know a lot more in potentially 6 months' time. But, if there's an estimate 40,000 lead service lines, just throwing a number out there, that's not the number. That could be $500 million.
Yeah, if the federal government is going to require us to replace it, it would be nice if they could also provide the money to do so. Obviously, this is in the interest of public health and very important to do. I just, as a representative of the city, we want to make sure we're not passing on $13,000 bills to people that can't afford it. So this is going to be a big undertaking, I'm sure. I understand we might not have all the answers right now, but I look forward to continuing to work with you to make sure that we can not pass this on to the homeowner and burden them with something that really isn't, their fault.
Sure.
Yeah, they're typically with these regulations, they come out with guidance documents that they release here probably in the next few months that should be helpful. The intent is to finance this as best we can and not put it all on the customers, utilizing the federal dollars that are available, competing with that. But there's still a lot of unknowns.
And just to clarify, the service line goes between the line that's underneath our streets. The lines are in the street, right? Not the alley? Okay, so the service line goes between the street and the house or dwelling. In order to replace the service line, would the street need to be torn up at all?
It would. To the water main in the street, the service lines run from that all the way through the foundation of the home. Or the building.
The street and the property would need to be torn up in order to So it sounds like we have more costs than just the actual replacement. Does the $13,000 kind of include the cost of all that, or?
The 13,000 would be the whole length. Now, some service lines, it might be less if they've had a portion of their line replaced already and is in copper. But that's for the whole line is the estimate, and that's an average.
But that doesn't include the cost of repairing the street or the sidewalk or the yard?
It will go a long ways for doing that. There will be other costs of administration of this process on our end, because we're going to have staff to track and document this. When you replace a service line, you're going to have to provide information and some type of filter that the customer can use for maybe 6 months, and then follow up testing to make sure that the lead levels drop down. So there's 900 pages of regulations, and there's a lot of things that we have to comply with and work out.
Okay. Wow. This is big. Feels big. So I know that thankfully we have some good people in the department. Mr. Patel, I'm looking forward to working with you, and I'm sure we'll figure this problem out. I'm not one of those ones that's going to sit here and say we need all the answers today, but I look forward to continuing to work to make sure we have this. As you know, Alderwoman Schweitzer also has a bill right now about the repair of our streets after utility work is done. That will affect the water division as well, and I'm sure she's been talking to you about that because she's very diligent about these things. But this seems like it'll fall right into that as well. If we have extensive work occurring throughout the city on these properties, we want to make sure that we're not disrupting, the road, the sidewalk, making sure that we still have, accessibility, making sure that we're working with the streets department and Mr. Fortune and over with the sidewalk program to make sure that we're, putting everything back where it should be so that we're not experiencing more of a disruption than we need to. But I think this is a good thing in the long run, and St. Louis will benefit from having these replaced, but lots of logistics to figure out. So again, I'm optimistic, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Browning. This is a lot to absorb. Lead, pun intended, I guess. The question I have, we talk a lot about how much it would cost for people to install meters. Is this a moment where we're looking at replacing a large number of service lines that we're going to also start recommending that at that time people are installing meters too, or any feedback on that?
If somebody wants to install a meter, it'd be the time to do it, but we're not to that point to
recommend one way or another.
Yes, and right now it would be an option, and it'd be up to the homeowners at this point.
Okay, but it would be significantly less to install a meter at a time where you're doing some work like this rather than.
I would think so, because you have the plumber and the personnel there to do it, and the equipment.
Right. Okay. And you're still waiting for more information, more guidelines, you said, and people should be expecting to see letters within the next month. Any other information that you'd like us to share with our constituents as they're processing this information? I'm sure we're going to have some people reaching out to us who are like, not expecting a $13,000 bill to be coming their way. I mean, what kind of information do you think we should be sharing as people are getting those letters?
That they're coming to read them. If you have questions, you can talk to us. We're not sending out $13,000 bills in November 1st. This has to be worked out. One thing that's very important is that there's an option if they are one of the people who have an unknown service line to read up and take the survey of what their pipe material is. There will be information on how to identify where it's copper, lead, or galvanized.
So they would be, because I heard Mr. Patel say that the only way for sure to know is to set eyes on it. So is that like you have to dig it up to know for sure sometimes, or?
We will, but
okay.
We will, if they go to their basement and they see that they have a lead service line, we don't need to
See it.
dig because we know that they have at least that coming into their house. Now, if they have something else besides lead, we may very well have to go out and verify in the tree lawn what's buried between the shutoff valve and the main, or connect it to the shutoff valve from the home. But that is, that's not cheap, and it would have to be paid by our operational budget to do that.
Sure.
We do have a grant program for an inventory project that is a field verification. That involves hydro excavating. It's a smaller, pothole that we dig on both sides of the valve that typically exists in the tree lawn, where you can get a visual verification. But again, as Kurt mentioned, where the line comes into your home is where you get the easiest visual verification of the line. And there is a YouTube video that shows you how to do the scratch test, a magnet test to identify the material.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
I think our listeners here, our constituents, will be happy to know that it's very unlikely for the water to have the elevated the elevated levels of lead in it now over what the limit is from the EPA. I think that's such an important point. So if I know that there is testing that the Water Division does, a representative sample of homes. Just for people listening and wanting to have more comfort, can you talk a little bit about what those samples have shown?
Sure. Yeah, it's our 90th percentile. That means the point when you do all your testing for compliance is that 90% of the test results are below that value. And that's what the 10 and 15 parts per billion regulation is based on. Our 90th percentile is usually 1 or 2 parts per billion.
Wow, so significantly lower than...
It is. Our water is hard, naturally, chemistry. It tends to deposit minerals on the inside of your pipe. If you cut one of your pipes off, seen the plumbing, if you ever done it at home, they are being choked down by the scale, and that is not a foolproof barrier, but it illustrates water deposits minerals. It's not looking to absorb minerals. Like up in Flint, Michigan, they have softer, more acidic water. It was dissolving. It was looking for minerals to incorporate into it. So it's the chemistry of the water that is protecting us, and we do treatment. And we do testing to make sure our treatment is aligned so that it isn't corrosive.
And it's important to note, too, that representative sample that we go out and test is all lead service lines. So
Very
these are homes that are served by lead service lines, and we still have, those low levels.
That is very important. I am sure, people will hear about this and assume that they may assume that there's a health concern immediate to them, and that, of course, we want to address the larger issue, address the regulatory rule, but also make sure that people know that they're very likely to be very safe with their water in the city of St. Louis this time.
Sure. And we do test water at the request of customers as well.
Okay, that's good to know as well. I appreciate that because I pulled up the map of lead service lines while you were talking, and it is a little jarring when you look around the whole city and see all of those dots that show that most of my neighborhood, for example, seems to have lead service lines. So I would not be surprised if the unknown number came back with a large percentage of those lines being lead, because someone would have had to change it most likely, unless they were part of a very small period of time where it wasn't lead, but it wasn't recorded as well as that.
Right. So we're not made aware when a customer, pays to upgrade their line, put in a copper service line. And so we wouldn't have that record. So, if it's an older record that's showing it's lead, but it was updated, that's the information we're trying to capture with these self-reporting tool.
Okay. I'll be watching that YouTube video later and checking my service line. Looking forward to it. It's a fun little after work project. Okay. Any other questions from the members of the committee?
No questions.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here. It sounds like we'll have more to talk about soon. So if you could just please keep our committee updated on any further guidance from the EPA, any further guidance you'll be giving to the community. We just want to make sure that we know what's going on so that we can help facilitate the conversation. We do have on here that we have public comment available. Madam Clerk, sign up to speak on this?
We have
One person signed up. Wonderful. Do you mind if we have a person speak, and then if they have thank you all. We'll call you up just one more second. Okay, sir, if you don't mind swearing in, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and as part of public comment, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Awesome. I just want to comment
Oh, and
on
you need name and area of the city that you live as well.
Dalen Brown, and I am from the Central West End area. I am coming to comment about the 51% of the unknown current pipes in the ground. And it is understood by me that our Missouri Department of Transportation does abide by federal regulations, and they're in ground surveying, and those tripods that you look through there and allows us to know that there's nothing in the ground and there's no bugs there before we dig. And in digging, we therein take these pipes out and we place new ones. And the only reason that I'm stating this is because what we do here in the Department of Transportation and in this federal government that therein we are all up under, and the regulations in which is so important by getting these permits is that we therein do have contracts with companies that therein produces these things. And I don't feel as though if we're doing regulations as they're supposed to be, that 51% of what's in the ground should be unknown, because we should have maps, and these maps should therein have the regulations of all of our plumbing and all of our electric lines here in the state of Missouri. We call dig right. And when we place a new pipe down there, due to actualities of things like seasons changing, and when the seasons change, we do have quite a few water main breaks. And when these water mains breaks, those are technically pipes that therein we transfer to new pipes, because therein things happen like the expanding and contraction of that material. So therein, every time we get a new pipe, we should understand completely what in fact that pipe is made out of. So now it is apparent that 51% of everything that we're doing in the state of Missouri under this federal umbrella is completely unknown, and we don't actually have to dig down there to see the receipts of what therein we have therein purchased under our Treasury Department and our taxpayers' dollars, that therein is there, and therein doing the regulations from our fluoride alkaline cleaned water here in the state of Missouri. And the only reason I'm commenting so zealously about it is because I don't want the general population to be notified of something that therein is no need to notify them of, and health concerns happen, and we're not in school, and we don't learn the things in which I'm stating to all of you from public information given by our beautiful state of Missouri, that therein keeps us from understanding what we're doing here in the state of Missouri. If we're going to tell everybody that there's lead in the water, which we can keep them from understanding, especially if it's not there, and keeping all of us from going to school and learning these things and being eligible to come up here and state, hey, how is this happening here in the state of Missouri? How, in fact, are we going to continue to be eligible to have people like me to come up here and ask these questions? I don't believe that there's a need for us to tell people that we need to have a health concern over lead if we can simply go to our maps and look at what the Department of Transportation regulations are on the federal and state level, and therein be eligible to state, hey, that's not true. I do understand that that's not there, and we're doing
excuse me, Mr. Dalen, that's your time.
in the state of Missouri. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking today. Alderman Aldridge joined us and has something he'd like to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for giving me the space. To the man, the young gentleman that just spoke, I just want to say thank you. I know you was at the town hall Monday, and ever since then, you have continued to get engaged. You was at the HUD's meeting on Tuesday, and here you are at the public infrastructure meeting. Thank you for being part of the process and continuing to figure out ways that you can be engaged in part of city government and showing up literally 3 days in a row. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay. With that, we will conclude the discussion today. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Scobie, Mr. Patel, for coming to speak today. We look forward to having you again here in the future. Thank you very much. And with that, we will move on to any acknowledgement of any written testimony.
We have none.
Okay, any announcements? Seeing none, all members were present today. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Alderwoman, we have the updated minutes, did you?
Okay, we will, if someone, you could withdraw your motion to adjourn.
Withdraw my motion.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are now moving back to item number 3 on the agenda, the approval of the minutes for Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. They should be in front of everyone. I would like to hear a motion for...
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th to approve the minutes of October 2nd, 2024. There's been a call for previous roll from the Alderman from the 5th. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing none, we have approved the minutes of October 2nd, 2024. Now we will move on to our motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the
Previous roll.
5th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th. There's been a call for previous roll. You're not on the committee, Alderman. You cannot object. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned.